Hello.
How's it going?
There we go. Hey, that was fun.
That was fun. I really enjoyed that.
It was pretty cool.
Yeah. It was a little nerve-wracking at first, like when you're at the table, like one-on-one with somebody, but once people started flowing in, it was good.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I really enjoyed that. First time I've ever done something like that. So definitely looking to use this platform again to do something similar. But just want to welcome everyone to our session today. Happy Thursday. I hope you all had a chance to meet some great people in the breakout rooms. I know I did. Robert, Scott, Laura, Daisy. We had a nice, quick 10-minute chat, sharing our stories, being in sales and whatnot. And I'm hoping we can continue this in a strong way, because this whole session is about, having conversations with context. And that's how we want to set this up. I promise you, as head of marketing at Owler, the way I've structured this will not be death by PowerPoint at all. This will not be dull, so much so I've not built a PowerPoint. This is probably one of the first and most exciting webinars and meetup situations where I'd not have to put a deck together. We're salespeople here, so I want us to talk and get to know each other and share common stories. First thing to get the ball rolling in terms of this being, conversational and interactive, we all see the chat feature there. While we couldn't all introduce ourselves to everyone in those breakout sessions, let's start by everybody getting comfortable with the chatbot by just shouting out, telling us where you are, not where you're from. So for example, I'm in the Bay Area. I'm in San Francisco, originally from Jersey. You can probably hear my Jersey accent a little bit, but let's all go in there and just shout out where we're from and see if we have some things like that in common quickly. Yeah, there you go. Los Angeles, see it. Jacksonville, Frisco, Seattle. Great. Nice, loving that.
All over the place. This is awesome.
All over, yeah. Calgary, look at that. Parsippany.
That's Gail.
I see you, Parsippany. Jersey guy here.
There you go. You're worldwide, Derrick.
No.
Mr. World.
Nigeria, Philippines.
Wow.
You got reach.
This is great. Thank you, everyone, for participating. And throughout our conversation, feel free to chime in with any questions, and we'll do our best to interrupt the presenters here and answer some of those questions. And throughout this session, we're going to have a number of polls, fun polls to keep this interactive. Alexandra Stone, our marketing manager, is going to be popping those in there. But I noticed I started this without introducing who I am. I'm Derrick Jenkins. I'm the head of marketing at Owler. I've been with Owler for 3 years. I found Owler when I moved to the Bay Area. I was using it as a tool to help me with prospecting. So looking up customers and clients, and lo and behold, they were hiring, and I applied for a job. And I've been with Owler for a while. Prior to that, I worked in the UK for nearly 10 years. Was super excited to come back to America and jump into a really exciting product, which is Owler. But I want to go and just pop around to the panel individually, introduce everyone, and you guys tell me again a little bit about who you are, where you're from. If you want to throw on something interesting, that's cool. No pressure. I'm going to start with my wonderful colleague, Nathan Steele, our head of customer success. I kind of just told you, but go for it, Nathan.
Yeah. So I'm Nathan Steele. I'm the head of CS here at Owler. Similar to Derrick, right? I found the company, actually, I'm a little bit more ingrained because I originally worked at a company called Data.com at Salesforce, and that was founded by Jim Fowler, who was also the founder of Owler. So I had a nice little connection into the company through that. But yeah, I mean, I've been in SaaS pretty much my entire career, bunch of retail before that, but I've been at Salesforce, Oracle, founded a company for a little bit, kind of bounced around a whole bunch of different places. So it's been a wild ride. Nothing interesting. I just love CS. I'm always completely customer focused and trying to drive renewals and conversations around just helping out customers.
Nice. I like that. That was interesting to me. Not just because I know you, but I think so. Jeff Venuti, you're up.
Jeff
Venuti. I'm sorry. Right back. My bad.
All right. I can go, Jeff. So Joe Venuti, I am the Vice President of Sales Development at UpKeep. We're an asset operations management platform. I've been here for just about a year. Spent the majority of the last 5 or 6 years working sales development in startups, and just really excited to be part of the conversation today. So thanks everybody for joining.
And now, Jeff, your turn. My mistake there.
Hey, it's fine. I'll be confused for Joe anytime. That's a trade up. My name's Jeff Bajorek. I have a consulting company where I coach, train, and consult with sales teams and sales leaders. I think there's a huge difference sometimes between what salespeople know and what they're able to do, and I like to connect those dots, whether it's on an individual level or at a team level or even at an organizational level. I like to think of myself as a professional problem solver in that regard, rather. And I tend to think of things a little bit differently. You're going to hear things from me probably today that I'm going to approach from an angle that you may not have really ever considered before. And that to me is great fun. And, interestingly enough, I just thought that was how people did things, right? And it wasn't until someone said, no one's ever said it that way, that I really started to feel like I might be onto something. So I've owned this business for about 7 years now, and I'm having great fun and learning new things every day. So thanks for having me here.
Nice. Excellent. So before we jump into the first set of questions, want to briefly remind everyone about the poll. I'm not sure if you've taken it yet, but I like this first poll question. It's easy. Would you rather work from home or in the office? And be honest. We're not going to share this with anyone's bosses, so dive in there. I think we've got a few people who've already submitted, but you can also see the live results in there too. So that is where we'll get started with that. But let's jump into our session. We've got about a half hour left or so let's do it. I want to first start with basic understanding that we know that building and nurturing relationships is super tough, especially during these times. We know how important it is to have personalized outreach. We want to inform our potential clients or our current clients with interesting information that we've learned about their business, right? And our business, see how we can all work together. And there's lots of different products out there. We'll talk about Owler a little bit, but we really want to take this time to educate on everyone to how to build conversations with context. So my first question is going to be pretty straightforward, which is, how do businesses stay relevant to their prospects and become a trusted partner and not just another vendor? Does that make sense? So let's start with Jeff. Do you mind taking that one on first?
No, not at all. I think something I continue to go back to, and the way I work with my clients when we think about marketing and prospecting and the like is, are you someone worth talking to with something worth talking about? Particularly in a virtual environment, from an inside sales standpoint, is the way that the traditional seller is thought of is someone who shows up, brings food, maybe donuts, maybe buys lunch, and let me make friends with you. Let me, try to build some kind of a relationship with you so that hopefully you'll buy from me. And I think that's so misguided. I think you have to cut through the noise. There are you and your competitors are calling these decision makers. They also have other sales reps from other companies about other decisions that they need to make that are calling them. And you need to stand out at some way. And you can't just say, hey, I'm Jeff. I'm a really great guy and I'd like to buy you food. Will you give me 15 minutes of your time, 20 minutes of your time? That approach still works in some sectors, but not as many as it used to. And I think that trend is going away. So what do you bring to the conversation? Do you bring a different point of view? Do you bring some insights, and using some of the things that, Owler helps with trigger events and things like that. And I know that's something that we want to get to, but do you have something to add to that conversation with the new context that the trigger event presents you with? And that's the way I think good prospectors think. You can't just take the same message and deliver to 1,000 people and hope that 50 of them pick up the phone or reply to you. I think we can do better.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Joe, following off.
Yeah. I mean, I absolutely agree with everything that Jeff just said. Right, there's been this evolution of prospecting over the last whole bunch of years, right? It was 100% cold call, then all the email automation came out and that was easier and it worked. And then people kind of pivoted back to phones when COVID, and now there's things like direct mail and intent data, and it almost all becomes overwhelming. At the end of the day, like sales and sales development, it's a human to human relationship, and it's very, very obvious to the prospect when someone's done a little bit of homework and actually understands something about you, the human, right? I think that personalization at scale was such a big buzzword over the last few years, and it's really, really hard and time consuming to scale that. And I know that we'll get to it, but I think that it really boils back down to having good solid processes in place, right? You get sales and marketing in a room and have marketing provide some air cover, have your initial sales outreach be targeted to the persona, but by the time that sales development rep or that sales rep gets on the phone with the human being, it should be like a human to human conversation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do a little bit of research on LinkedIn. Where'd they go to school? What's their favorite sports team? It's just the world we live in now. Dumping 600 people into a sequence or a cadence, and managing just your reply rates, like that doesn't work anymore.
No, I'll say, in a marketing role, I get these type of emails sometimes, where I can see I'm in a cadence. I can see them just being fired out, and I'm eager for that person to reach out to me and say something interesting, interesting about me, about their business, because then I want to engage with that person, right? It just makes sense. I'm curious what they have to say. Nathan, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, again, I agree with everybody. I think, for sales specifically, it's really important to have a repeatable process, but you don't want to make a repeatable communication point, right? You can't take, Joe said it perfectly, you can't take the same message and send it to 2,000 people and expect people to pick up the phone. And I always relate it back to my dad, who taught me a ridiculous amount about sales. And he was a commercial lender for 32 years in Spokane, Washington. And everybody during that time who lived in Spokane, Washington, whether they were working with my dad or not, knew who he was. And all he did was just simply stay informed about the companies, stay informed about the regulations around the business in the space. And he was just there to answer questions. He would send really relevant articles that hey, this just came out in the Business Journal. I noticed that you're mentioned in it, or I noticed some of your competitors are mentioned in it. Just a heads up, right? And all he did was he just became there. He was always available, and he was always a resource. And he basically became a person that people wanted to know. And I think that's a big aspect of sales, especially in the CS world, is look, I can be just another customer success manager. I can be somebody here to help you. But the reality is, if I genuinely care about your business space, I genuinely care about the industry you work in, and I can present things that are helpful to you, even if you're not a customer, all of a sudden, when I do want to buy something, my first thought is going to be, hey, Nathan sent me this article that was really cool that I didn't know about, and it actually helped me go do something. Maybe I do want to talk to that guy. And I'm not prospecting per se, but I'm building relationships. And once I've connected those relationships, you can have a ton of success with prospecting. So that's where I found success.
Can I ask you though, Nathan, aren't you prospecting?
Yeah. I do all the time.
Well, no, but when you said in that very example, and I think this comes to a perspective thing. Like, I'm building relationships. Why are you building relationships? Because you want to hopefully do business with these people right now.
Yep.
Or maybe not right now, but eventually, right? Mm-hmm. So I think so many things, or where salespeople get the prospecting thing all wrong, is they feel like I have to do this thing today to make a sale by the end of this week. Oh, hold on. You're going to have a month to hit in June too. You're going to have a Q3 to hit. You're going to have a 2023 to hit. You're out there building a reputation, and this ties into your personal brand, and it ties into your network within the industries that you serve. But what you talked about there, and you said, I'm not trying to, I'm calling you out, I guess, but
no, it's fair. Yeah.
But it's like, I'm not actually prospecting. Yes, you are. Like, what is prospecting, and why can't we wrap our arms around that and embrace it so that we can do it better? And like, that's the kind of scope that I think if more people took that, they would understand how long it actually takes.
Yeah, that's huge.
And it's I'm working a deal right now. It's been 2.5 years. It's a really good deal. It's going to be worth it. I'm not hanging my hat on it yet, but we're progressing along the way. If I'd have given up on it, I wouldn't be able to do this work.
Yeah.
And they don't always take that long, but sometimes they do. It's okay. And I think that just the timing of things makes too big of an impact. Salespeople are too quick to throw deals away.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And I think, going back to what makes you a trusted partner versus a vendor is a trusted partner is going to refer you as well. So when you do become this really nice connected person, all of a sudden like, hey, I love working with Jeff. He's been fantastic from our organization. He's always there when I need him. You need to go talk to him. Versus a vendor, like, nah, like I'm not going to refer you. I'm not going to recommend you. You're just there because you have to be. But that's a good point. I definitely do not. I've never considered building relationships as prospecting. That's a great way, I think, to expand the thought process.
I mean, it's one thing if you're looking for a partner, or if you're looking for, you're in a new town, you're trying to, have make new friends or something like that. But I think in a business context, and we don't like to call it prospecting because we think of that as something you do to somebody, not something you do with someone.
So true.
That's the flaw. That's the flaw. We're in sales. We get to help people accomplish things they wouldn't be able to accomplish on their own. That's a moral obligation if you're doing it right, and if you're not thinking about it that way. I mean, that changes everything. Go ahead, Joe. I'm sorry.
No, all good. I think the other important thing that you said when you talked about the deal you've been working on for 2.5 years, and you built a relationship, and now you're hopefully at the finish line. I think that there's like the realization that you're going to win some deals, you're going to lose some deals. There's a lot of variables along the way, but if you give them a great prospect experience from start to finish, a lot of times you'll see those deals come back to you, right? Especially in the SaaS space where I live, right? You can lose deals to pricing, you can lose deals to competitive relationships, whatever it might be. But a lot of times if somebody goes to an inferior product or just ends up unhappy with the decision they made, because they had a great experience, they end up as an inbound 8, 9, 10, 12 months later. All that work is not in vain just because you lost that deal on the front end.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with that, Joe. I've had prospects, I don't want to call them prospects. I built relationships with some people where they've become friends. They've moved on to other jobs and remembered me and called me up because they remembered, maybe they couldn't buy me there, but they bought me at the next place. These people have also been resources for me to find other jobs. They became partners, throughout my career. So I think of it as more of just truly building relationships and growing it as we grow our careers together. I have a friend of mine who I used to sell to him, and I don't anymore, but we've been friends for years, all from something that started with work from prospecting. So why is personalized outreach so hard for sales teams? Why do people cringe? Why do they fear it? Why do they think it's such a challenge? Who wants to tackle that one?
I'll hop on that one. It's almost impossible to make repeatable, right? So I mean, Joe said that earlier. How do you make personalization something that you can do quickly, right? As an SDR, and again, right, even though we'd like to take 2 years to close a deal, as an SDR, I do in fact have a week to spark a conversation. And so again, that's where building that really big pipeline of having these people that keep coming back is valuable. But making that personal connection is hard unless, from my perspective, you're really informed about the industry you're working in. Owler, and again, I'll plug it. The nice thing about it is I can come in and I can set up all the accounts that I'm working with, whether it's my leads, accounts, opportunities, and then I can choose insights in the product to say, hey, if there's a funding announcement, if that company wins an award, if there's a major leadership change, whatever it is, I can have that sent to me in Slack, in Salesforce, in email, and I instantly know, without having to go research a bunch or without having to go Google companies before I call them, I know, hey, this company just hired a new VP of sales. So I'm immediately going to go research who that person is. I'm going to research their company quickly and say, hey, awesome. I now know this person. I now know why they're here. I read the quick article about them and I can personalize that message to them. So it gives me the ability to kind of make it repeatable, but really I take away the obstacles of the hours of research that it takes to go do it. And I would just say that's the biggest issue why personalization has been so hard is you can't send out 100 emails that are personalized in 10 minutes. It can't be done.
Right.
Absolutely. So I think that, Nathan, you and I both have used the word process a couple of times now in just the first few minutes here. And I think that it's very easy to say it's really hard to build a repeatable process around like high level personalization. And it is. But I think that it's really incumbent upon leadership to build the process for you. And what I mean by that is tier out the database, tier out the accounts, do something so that your SDR or BDR team understands these are my top 10%. These are the ones that are showing intent data. These are the ones that are just got funding, whatever your trigger is. And now I know I've got 10,000 accounts in my massive territory. and I got a prospect, to personas to try to generate interest. But these top few are where I'm going to invest my time into really doing like that next level research. I'm not going to put them in a cadence. All my emails are going to be one-off. If I'm using direct mail or something like that, this is where I'm going to apply that budget, because you have high velocity and low friction there. So it's so easy to say, hey, SDR, go have a repeatable process and cycle it out every day and be hyper personalized and do all this. But like, that's never going to work. The company or the leadership has got to set them up for success. You just can't hand them a book of business and say, go identify the top 10 accounts. I mean, it's like throwing darts blindfolded. It just doesn't work. So it really, really has to start with like your sales development, leadership, and demand gen having, a process and plan in place, and then deep level enablement down to the team so that they can execute on this, right? I should be building the process. They should be executing. They shouldn't be responsible for building that process, and then I'm holding them accountable to a number, right? At the end of the day, we look at dials, we look at talk time, we look at emails, we look at all that stuff. And if they're trying to personalize to 10,000 people a week, they're going to say to me at the end of the week, I don't know why I only made 10 dials. I felt like I was working hard all day. They were working hard, but they were working hard on the wrong things. They have to spend their day working, not getting ready to work.
I like that.
I can't clap enough for that. Joe, this little emoji thing at the bottom, it's a cool platform. I'm like clapping, and more people should clap for that. Like, you hit the nail on the head there, Joe.
Yeah, I love that, Joe. That was excellent. So, all right, let's pivot this a bit to be even more interesting. Where is the line between personalization and being creepy? Right? People who sometimes they fear it, but I know we've all had experiences. So I'd love to hear from you guys if you've had any, bad examples. Feel free, audience, to chime in there as well. But where's the balance?
Yeah. I mean, I can start, I guess. Again, I spent 3 years working for a direct mail company, so we heard some interesting stories from customers, but like my own personal experience, I think that probably the some of the creepiest stuff I heard of was somebody, a prospect somehow went onto somebody's Facebook and like realized it was a child's birthday that past weekend and basically reached out saying like, hey, how was your daughter's birthday party? Like, I think that's a little too far. The way that I kind of look at it and like tell the team is, if it's on LinkedIn, it's fair game, right? That's the professional platform. And there's plenty of things that you can find out about people on LinkedIn. Some of the best personalization I've received has come from, promotions, job changes, funding announcements at the company I work for. Like, that is 0% creepy, 100% relevant, and going to catch my attention. The easiest thing in the world to do is figure out like somebody's favorite sports team or where they went to college. I have 2 quick sports examples. One was great, one was terrible. Not too long ago, when the Patriots were in the playoffs, they lost the game, but somebody reached out because they knew I was a big Patriots fan and said, hey, I will make a bet. If the Patriots win, I'll send you a $50 e-gift to Fanatics and you can buy Patriots gear. If the Patriots lose, you got to take my half-an-hour demo. Of course, the Bills blew them out. There I was on the demo. Great outreach. He knew I was a sports fan. He sucked me right in. Super, super, super good follow-up. The other one that was not so good was a few years back when the Bruins, my favorite hockey team, lost Game 7 of the Stanley Cup. I got a prospecting email like 4 days after Game 7 with the subject line, do you think the Bruins could take it? So all that guy did was pour salt in an open wound, and there was no way I was replying to that email. I still wasn't over the loss, and now he's bringing up bad memories. So it's just being relevant, right? It's paying attention to what's going on in the world. It's paying attention to where your prospects live and what their interests are. But like, stay away from family, stay away from personal events. If it's on LinkedIn, it's fair game.
You're not from Boston, are you, Joe? Just curious.
I am 100. Yeah, I am. I live in Arizona now, and I lived in Boston my whole life. Yeah, the lack of hours in the sports team gave it away. I know.
No, I went to college Northeastern, so yeah.
Okay.
There is a question here from the audience: to what degree is hyper personalization really necessary if your message is relevant? To what degree is hyper-personalization really necessary if your message is relevant?
It's a great question.
Yeah, it is.
I don't know how important it is. There are ways that you know somebody, right? You can show them that you know them. Okay, that goes a long way. But just because you know me doesn't mean that I still want to take your call. So again, what is the point of, I think, what is the point of the outreach? What is the point of the meeting? What value are you going to trade for their time? Now, personalization is valuable, and the data that, look, you guys represent a great company that provides salespeople with data. That data is valuable to help understand the situation they're in. And that is a kind of personalization. So I don't know. I think that's why it's such a great question is, we're talking about relevance. Well, it's a different way of looking at the same coin, I think. And you want to think about, as you're prospecting, you need to give these people a reason to take your call.
Yeah.
And people don't want to talk about your problem, or the people don't want to talk about your product. Occasionally they want to talk about their favorite sports teams, but unless you can take that favorite sports team and transition it over to a meeting that's worth taking, it doesn't matter how personal you are. So yeah. I think we have to be careful about where we go with personalization. You still have to bring the goods to the meeting.
Right. Right.
I think my thought process reading that, not to cut you off, Joe, is A, how do you know your message is still relevant if you haven't done the research and personalize it to their needs? But B, does it hurt? Right? I mean, does driving a personalized message that's also relevant increase your chances? Or would you take the risk of just making sure it's relevant and not personalizing it to that individual person? So that's how I always look at it is what's going to increase my chances of having a better connection. And personalization tends to work significantly better than just relevance.
I think the other thing is, we were, initially talking like very, very top of the funnel. So if your top of funnel messaging is spot on, sure, you're going to get some opens, you're going to get some replies, you're going to get some engagement. But before anybody's going to sign a check and ship a bunch of money your way, damn well they're going to go and look at some competitors in the space and do their due diligence. So that is why personalization is so critical, right? Like I can deliver the best outbound messaging possible. I can lock you down into that first 30-minute call. But if that is not the ultimate decision maker, or even if it is, they're going to go and look at competitors. And the prospect journey is what needs to be hyper personalized. The top of funnel, like we were just talking about, you cannot do that to everybody. But now I've got you engaged. You're now in my head, you're a hand raiser because you replied to me, you did whatever action. And now it is imperative that I provide you with an amazing prospect experience until you sign on the dotted line, and then I'm worried about giving you a great customer experience. You will lose deals if you take for granted that your messaging is spot on and you're driving a bunch of meetings. You'll have a ton of top of funnel pipeline and nothing's going to move.
That's such a great point, Joe, because the way that you sell is often the biggest differentiator between you and your competitors. There are a lot of tools out there that will accomplish the same means. Some look more like others than some others, but what are we trying to do here? I need to show you that I understand where you are. Joe, for instance, Nathan, Derrick, either of you, right? I need to show that I know exactly where you are right now. And part of that becomes, or that is part of or demonstrating the expertise that I have, that I'm making you feel confident and comfortable that I can help you move forward and accomplish what you want to accomplish. That is a vital part of the prospect experience and the sales process. And if you can't do that, you're not going to move them. And that's such a great point, Joe. Yeah, go ahead. Relevance will get you a bunch of top of funnel. It will. It's helpful. I would suggest that without being relevant, you're going to have a hard time getting anyone's attention. But Nathan, to your point, and what Joe followed up and really hammered home is there has to be an element of personalization there. Otherwise, you will lose to someone who will. You'll lose to someone who will personalize. I don't want to know that you're talking to me. I want to know that you understand me. Like you get my attention when I feel like you understand people like me. But once we're dancing, I need to know that you're dancing with me, and not persona or not a figment of your marketer's imagination, right? Like
Yeah.
that's important.
Yeah, and as you said before, doing your homework ahead of time. I know Alex is dropping a couple polls. I just want to acknowledge those. First one is, how often are you sending personalized emails to your prospect? I'm really keen to see the results on that one. But I want to go into solutions for all this prospecting. If businesses could have news and insights sent directly to their sales team as they happen on companies that they're prospecting or they're interested in, would that help the prospect, the process? Would that lead to success, getting the latest news and insights about that company you're going after, so you can reach out to them? What are you guys' thoughts on that as part of the process, the journey of prospecting?
So
It's
say that again, though. So would it help the prospect for them to get the insights, or does it help the prospect for the reps to get the insights?
It's going to land in the salesperson's email or workflow, right? The information. So do you see that helping the prospecting process?
Oh,
Getting relevant, getting that news insight in real time right away. Hey, this just happened, funding announcement, etc.
yes.
Yeah. And the probability of success with that, you'd see, is higher than, again, what you said, just blasting out a general email, correct? So getting that information in real time and responding to it accordingly. I still think you need to get that information and tailor it, and or send it directly.
I always, not to cut in, I relate it. So I have two little kids, and we just had a 5-year-old birthday party for my oldest 6-year-old. Oh man, don't let my wife hear that. 6-year-old birthday party. And we were out, we went to a skating rink, right? So there's tons of kids, tons of people around, everybody's skating, having a good time. And I picked up on something that I found fascinating. And I think all people do this, is my kids knew pretty much no one there, right? So rather than instantly coming over and start shouting and doing stuff and saying whatever they wanted to say, they listened. Like, they really listened. And what I noticed is my oldest heard a couple kids talking about Minecraft, and my kid knows everything about Minecraft. So instantly he was like, I know that. And he slowly skated over and started talking about Minecraft. Like, oh, have you guys tried this? Have you done that? And it just kind of blew my mind that how intuitive it was for these little kids to not just shout out and say, hey, this is what I know, this is what I do, but they listened for a cue to jump into the conversation. And when it comes to things like news happening, right? Or I think, Joe, you said it perfectly about not being creepy. If I see a conversation on LinkedIn happening that I can relate to, it makes way more sense for me to hop into that. So getting news and information happening all the time, it's always happening. But if I can connect something that I can jump in on, right? That like, hey, the conversation's happening around this, and I'm actually really smart about that. So I'm going to go dive in and add some insight and drive a relationship around what I can help with, rather than me trying to push something at you. But I just thought that was super fascinating. I wanted to share because I never seen little kids, take the time to listen, because mine talk all the time. But in that social setting, man, it was so cool to see.
That's awesome. I think that, like, when I think about having access to like real-time information, the thing that jumps out to me when I'm thinking about top of funnel prospecting is time and click path. And that's the biggest thing that it saves for the prospecting sales rep, right? When you think about an SDR's day, they're in and out of 6, 7, 8 different tools. And when we're talking about personalization, they're on the internet trying to figure out on LinkedIn, like, hey, do I know someone that just took a VP role at this company? If you can have all of that at your fingertips, it dramatically saves the time that it takes for them to go to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 different places to get that one nugget. Because at that point, it's all about the icebreaker, right? When you think about like the anatomy of a cold call, which is a training that I'll always do, right? It's like introduction, rapport build. And the rapport build starts with a solid icebreaker. And if you've got a good nugget of information or, a good piece that's very relevant to that prospect, like, that's a win, right? That's why I tell my team all the time, hey, if you see somebody just started at your company, call them. They're looking to make an impact. You got a great way. Hey, congratulations on the new director role. Like that's going to get my attention, right? People love to talk about themselves. You're talking about me. You're patting me on the back. Like, cool. I'm going to give you your 30 seconds to pitch me. So if I don't have to go to 19 different places to figure out one little nugget to open the call with, like, great. When you think about that times 60 calls a day, times, 100 prospects a week over the course of the month and the year, like how much time did you save? And how many meetings did you book in the time that you were dialing or emailing versus researching? So like that's the value.
And I think it's important what the rep does with the data or with the information, with that alert. Okay, new round of funding at a startup. Every sales rep in the world is going to hear about that new round of funding because it's posted everywhere, right? And every sales rep in the world is going to send a message to your prospect, and they're going to say, congrats on the new round of funding. Because most sales reps, not anybody on this call, of course, most sales reps are going to say, great, you have money to spend with me. That's what they're thinking about. Well, okay, but what does that new round of funding mean to your prospect? Wow, congratulations on the funding. This might mean that you're thinking about expanding your team. With expansion, that comes all kinds of headaches. My company helps growing companies like yours handle headaches like fill in the blank. I'm trying to be generic and specific at the same time, which is really hard for me to do. But how do you plan to handle this? I've helped in the past. I may have some things that I can share with you if you're willing to spend a few minutes with me. And what you're promising there is that they're going to take something away from that meeting, even if they don't buy something from you. And you have to be okay with that.
Yeah.
But the way you sell things is by having sales meetings. So the focus needs to be on the meeting first. Then we can decide if this is worth pursuing. But I think reps are just, the information alone is very, very valuable. But if you misuse that information, you're not a whole lot better off than if you didn't have it in the first place. So think just one step ahead so you can stay one step ahead of all your competitors out there. Don't just, if you're going to use the service, don't just take the data and then blast your list with it or be one of the hundreds of reps that are going to reach out to, that particular company. Think for a second. Slow yourself down. What does it mean? And how will it start a meaningful conversation? Again, someone worth talking to with something worth talking about versus another dude in Novi, Michigan, sending an email. Congratulations on the new money. Would you like to spend some of it with me? Right. That is being telegraphed all over the place. It's brutal.
I think a huge thing there too, Jeff, and going back to what you said, like you have to be okay with them not buying from you, is I'm in CS, so I have a little bit of a different perspective. I still definitely do plenty of sales, but I've never understood when we can go out in our day-to-day life and spark really good conversations with strangers in a grocery line about what's going on in our life, and we're comfortable doing that. But as soon as you plug in this aspect of I have to sell you something, you just get bad. You get uncomfortable. You're not good at driving the conversation. We just get really like awkward. And it's so funny. Like all sales is just talking to a friend, right? If I was going to email somebody about something cool that happened to them, it's not going to be a weird sales pitch. It's going to be me saying, hey, this is super cool. This happened to you. Like that's what I would do to anybody that I met in the street. So it's funny how if we go into those conversations with the thought process of, hey, I'm not trying to sell anything. I genuinely just am curious about you as a person. I want to know what you're doing. I want to know what your role is like. You just raise money. I know how stressful that is. I've been at companies that have raised money. Yeah. I'm curious to know, like, what are your game plans? And maybe I can offer some guidance. Maybe I can't, but man, I'd be really curious to know what you guys are doing because I've been through it and it's tough. And just being there with that perspective will make you stand out because everybody else is doing exactly what you said before, where they're just like, hey, you have money that I can spend and I would like to spend it for you. And they're like, no, like delete. I'm not going to even read that email. I'm not even going to answer that call. So just be a person, right? And drive an actual conversation with another person. It's incredible the difference it'll make.
So it's still taking that news and insights that's current and tailoring it.
100%. Right? Because again, that gives me the in, right? That gives me the nugget that I've been looking for, but I'm not just going to use that and abuse it like a machine and say, hey, I saw this, here's my template that I created. I'm going to copy, paste, and send it. Like, no, right? You're a human being. I'm going to relate that to my own experiences, just like you would with anybody else you meet, like a friend or a spouse or whoever it may be. Go drive that conversation. And it's just incredible. I've noticed it in CS where like when I actually care about my customers, they buy significantly more than when I just treat them like a number.
And I think it goes back to, as we stated before, being that trusted partner, not just another vendor, right?
Big time.
You know what I mean? There's sometimes news that breaks at companies that are so large that your buyer may not have even heard about it.
Oh yeah.
So you're telling them information that they're so busy doing their thing, they didn't realize they just got acquired potentially. You know what I mean? Or that, or new product just got released because the company's so big. You know, they're looking at it like, oh, cool, thank you for that information.
Mhm.
You know, you're a partner there, and I think that's critical. So, you know, Owler provides a service where we send you news and alerts and triggers, instant insights about that in real time, and having that access to all the information in one source, from one source, I think is crucial and critical. What are you guys' thoughts on that? Being able to extrapolate that from one source instead of having to dig from it. Kind of an easy answer, right?
I mean, what does that do for the efficiency in your workflow, right? I mean, just,
Fun.
you know, Joe mentioned it. I get, you know, 8 different tabs open all the time, and hopefully they sync. And a lot of times they don't. You know, Joe, I think I stepped on you were about to say something.
Yeah, I know. I was gonna basically say it kind of goes back to the point that I made earlier, right? If you have it all centralized, like it saves a ton of time, day over day, week over week, month over month, and like, you know, human capital is one of the most is probably the most expensive thing that any company has. So, you know, make sure you're putting it to the best use, and if you can get everything in one place and get, you know, more calls and more emails, which equals more pipeline, which equals more revenue, like you see the cycle there.
Yeah, Alex just dropped in a new poll, that I can't wait to get the feedback on this, the read on this. Has personalization brought you more successful deals? I mean, the percentage on that should be high. Kind of a no brainer there. We've all asked that. You know, and another poll that was that we put in there, I think is really cool and fun, which is you know, which of the following would be the easiest conversation starter?
That is a good one.
news, celebrity gossip, something you saw on social media, politics. I mean, pretty easy answer there too, right?
Politics is always the go-to, right?
Yeah. That's how you make friends right there. I think
people together, Jeff, than talking about competing.
I think what's really relevant about this question, right? And I am curious. So guys, please go fill out this poll because I want to see what everybody has to say. I think this depends on where you're at, right? And if I'm at a political convention, then boom, that's what I'm going to talk about. If I'm at a grocery store, I'm talking about celebrity gossip, right? The Kardashians just did this. So again, it's all about just listening to your surroundings, understanding where you're at, and using the right thing at the right time to drive that conversation. For sales, right? It might be celebrity gossip. Who knows, right? If you know this person is in an industry, and if you are creeping a little bit on Instagram, and you see that they're always commenting on celebrity stuff, use it, right? I mean, use that to your advantage. But I think it's really relevant to where you're at to use the information around you to drive the conversation when it makes sense, rather than, again, pushing your thoughts in when it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, right? Like, obviously, the majority of people are going to click the latest business news one, but you know, I think the other thing that plays a big role is, you know, active listening.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Let your prospect dictate what direction you go in. You know, years ago, I worked for an appointment setting company, and I would tell the reps, like, hey, if you call somebody and they give you I got 30 seconds for you, go. Don't ask about the weather, just go.
Yeah.
If you have that person like, oh, hey, how are you? Where are you from? Like, that's the person you want to talk about the weather with or sports with. So, like, active listening really helps you win there when you're talking top of funnel. And going back to the earlier conversation around like hyper-personalization, you know, like how relevant is hyper-personalization if your messaging is great? Like, that's a great spot for that. You build a relationship through personalizing that sales experience for a prospect, and you get to know what's going on in their lives, right? And now you've got a relationship. So like the kids' t-ball game that they maybe brought up on the last call, like that's not so creepy because they offered it up. Hey, you know, like I've got a million scenarios running through my head of like sales reps that have either worked for me or that maybe you've tried to sell to me. And I've mentioned in passing that, oh, I'm doing this weekend. And when they ask about that next time, because they were actively listening, like, I do think like if it's something that's on my team, I'm like, damn, like great job. Like this person will be engaged. If I'm the prospect, it's really kind of warms up that whole relationship and brings it to a new level.
Great. Excellent. I know we're coming up at time. Um, But first, the engagement I've seen in terms of this chatbot feature, fantastic. Some great questions came out of this, some great insight from the crowd, which is excellent. I want to thank everyone for participating in this. As I said, I was not going to go down death by PowerPoint, and I think we nailed that. I think we nailed it. We had a great conversation going. 3 people here who were super into it, super engaged and excited, and you can see the participation from our audience, which is great. So, thank you. And I encourage everyone to stick around. We can go back into those rooms, those breakout rooms, and engage the conversation further. I know I could talk about this subject for another hour. I think you guys all could too, because it's important, critical, and it's part of our work. Feel free to connect with the Owler guys on LinkedIn. Check out some of our new products. But I think this was great. Any closing remarks from the panel here?
I think, I guess I'll go first. I think you're looking for an edge. You're looking for a leg up on your competition. Recognize that attention is being spread thinner than it ever has before.
Yes.
And you need a way to break through. And there are a lot of ways that you can break through, but whether we're talking about personalization, whether we're talking about relevance, whether we're talking about those being kind of 2 peas in a pod, just think about everybody else that's trying to reach your prospects. How are you going to stand out? And why is taking your call going to be more valuable than taking the average sales rep's call? And it's not just doing what you're told. Because Joe, if I work for you and you tell me to do exactly what I'm supposed to do, and then I do it and it works, great, I'll take all the credit. And if it doesn't work, I'll take none of the blame because I just did what you told me, Joe, right? Like that's a great way to just remove your own responsibility right from the process. Take an extra few seconds. I know it feels like you have 1 million people to call and 100 million emails to send, but take just a few extra seconds and think about how you can make each one of those touches more valuable. The math works. You can have a higher conversion rate if you just put a little more thought into your outreach instead of going through the motions. And that's what these tools provide you with.
Yeah. Well said, Joe.
Yeah, I think I'll add before Joe, I'll let you take it out, is remember your prospects are people, right? I think at the end of the day, we're all here sitting at a computer, right, doing our jobs. And we're all living in the same world. So it's just relevant to keep in mind you're talking to a human. It's not a machine. It's not a robot. And when you write your emails, when you direct your things, how would you want somebody to reach out to you? And if you hate those completely copy paste emails, so do they, right? So think about how you're putting those things together. I love some of the comments of like be a chameleon. Just think about how you can drive those conversations to something like you yourself want to be interested in. Even like this webinar, it's been fun because we didn't do a PowerPoint slide like everybody else does, and it's really boring. Treat people like people, and you'll have a lot of success.
Yeah, and I'll wrap it up with, I would say, everybody responds to things differently. Therefore, do not be a one-trick pony. There are 1 million tools and 1 million avenues at your disposal to do prospecting and to leverage personalization. The analogy that I always use is you can be the best carpenter in the world, and I can ask you to go build me a house. And you say, yeah, Joe, I'll build you a house. I'm on it. And then I hand you a screwdriver. You cannot get the job done without your entire toolbox. Mm-hmm. So use all of these tools at your disposal, and you'll be far more successful rather than just 1 or 2 things, because that may not be what clicks for that prospect, but something else in that toolbox will.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. Thank you, everyone, for participating in this session, Conversation with Context. We definitely had it. We had Conversation with Context. I think we nailed it. As I said, feel free to reach out to any of us. We'll leave our emails here so the Tenbound team can follow up. But I think that pretty much wraps things up. If anyone wants to stick around to have further chats, we can do that in some of the breakout rooms. Sound good?
Awesome. Thank you, everyone, for coming. This was fun.
Everyone.